Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, MC. And first of all, I'd like to thank you, Asas, for inviting me to this auspicious event and to allow me to share my 2 cents on fintech. I'm not a tech guy, neither not I have the knowledge of Islamic finance as the audience have, but inshallah, we can share whatever that we know together. All right, to start with, I think before we start looking into the ecosystem itself, allow me first to go into the context of Sharia fintech, and then we're going to look a bit on the fintech evolution. So the irony about Sharia, not the irony, just like the thing about the 3 elements in Sharia fintech, we have Sharia professionals, we have Islamic finance professional or finance professional, as well as we have the information technology or the tech startup guy. The thing about these 3 components within Sharia fintech, all these three elements actually have a very different attribute to each other. Imagine if I speak on Sharia, on fintech, within fintech or tech forum, I'll not be wearing like this. They'll be wearing t-shirt, they'll be more relaxed. But as we put it in financial forum, we are more uptight. That practically represents how different are we. And not only that, on top of that, what happened for all 3 elements, they have their own focus that they need to look into as more immediate and more urgent matters. For example, when you look into the Sharia space, we are looking into global harmonization between various localities. And when it comes to the financial, we start looking into the risk management aspect, the profitability of the banks. But when you talk to the tech guy, the information technology industry, they are looking into continuous innovation. Because when you talk to them, what they're going to say, basically they're going to tell you that technology year is a lot more shorter than the real year. For example, just take our mobile phone as an example. Earlier on, Samsung came out with a new model like 2 years, 3 years. Now, last year was Samsung 8, and then come on Samsung 9, and they keep on producing. The technology advancement is so rapid. So for whoever that be in the technology space, they tend to be more rapid. They cannot wait. They cannot accept a no for a no. They need to keep on going. And there are issues like about the user adoption. All right, that's about the 3 elements on the Sharia fintech. Then, when we talk about fintech, to be very critically and frank, actually fintech is not really a new thing. Because in the early 1990s, when internet started to came about, the bank or the financial institution start to embark on adopting technology and adopting internet in their operation. And during that time, we were saying that, the bank business model need to be revisited and so on and so forth. However, what happened? Up to now, you can see that bank can live hand in hand. In the same ecosystem with the internet and the technology in 1990s. And in earlier 2000s, I remember when I started my job in PMB, the in thing back then was quant finance, all the algorithm on investing and whatnot, and the idea about structured product, everything using, it's like rule-based investment. But back then, in 2000s, what happened? The disruption only came to certain part of the whole financial services. However, post-2008, as we all may aware, post-2008, we start to have the Bitcoin, then the advancement of the blockchain and whatnot. And then only we're going to see a lot of things about fintech. And this time around, when we talk about fintech not only focus on certain part of the value chain in the Islamic financial services. It tries to disrupt from one end to another end. I'll show you in the next slide. This is basically a report made by World Economic Forum. The report was created in 2015. The title of the report, Future of Financial Services, How Disruptive Innovation are Reshaping the Way Financial Services are Structured, Provisioned, and Consumed. When looking into how can technology disrupt financial services, the World Economic Forum, they divide into 6 spaces. The first one is in the insurance, and then deposit and lending, whereby you're going to see a lot of alternative lending, as opposed to what we always have. And then when it comes to the capital raising, we start to have crowdfunding. This one mainly due to, it is not actually on the advancement on the digital economy alone. It is also actually the advancement of the sharing economy. When you look into, last decades, we are not so acceptable of having Airbnb or Uber. It is not only about technology, it is also about the sharing economy. So it has both factors come into crowdsourcing, crowdfunding element. And the next one is like investment management, where they have more empowered investors with robo-advisors and whatnot. And the next one is the market provisioning, yes, market provisioning, and the last one is about payment. In fact, in the next slide, you'll see that most of the fintech now, based on reports from the PwCs and whatnot, they're saying that most of the fintech are within payment system. That's the most active one. And then from the research finding, one of the things that I would like to highlight, there are 9 of them, but I would like to highlight, World Economic Forum state that Asia will be the key drivers on fintech. Indeed, our neighbor Singapore have been doing a lot of progress on fintech. A lot of progress. In fact, if you look into the global hub on fintech, it has to be San Francisco, New York, London, and Singapore. And you'll be seeing a lot of activities coming from China even now. So going to my next point. So as now we understand about the whole end-to-end value chain in financial industries, we need to also understand the startup life cycle. Because before we start to put in what sort of ecosystem we want to put in the fintech, we need to understand what startup want, what actually technology firms want. So there are, of course, if you ask my professor Google, they'll give you a lot of cycles, a lot of phases, but I like to pick this one. So basically there are 6 life cycle of startup. The first one is discovery or ideation. At this stage, what they need is like they need to have market assessment. They need to have education and event to firm up their belief. Because whoever they want to create new startup, they need to really believe in what they want to do. So this is the stage whereby they do a lot of soul searching. So at this point, if we, from the financial industry, we want to help them, we need to see which angle we can provide help to them. Mainly for this kind of people, I met a few of them, they come up like, yeah, I have good ideas, I want to do it, I strongly believe in it. So what they need to do, they need to start looking into what sort of market they're looking at. So that's the discovery. The moment they get into, they pass discovery stage, what they need to do next is about validation. They need to start validate their idea. Validate meaning, in a simple way to put it, you need to find some believer which is not within your comfort circle of friends and relatives. So you need to test and to get the idea, yeah, this idea can be done. So it's either you go to, for example, if I have some product and some idea, I go to my bank and my bank says, yeah, I think this one can be made. You just need to make this type of advanced adjustment and then you come up with the prototype. So usually when from the discover to validation, this is where I think us from the financial industries need to, extend our hand even more. Just like open like sort of clinics or anything like that so that people from the tech or have idea on startup can come and always check. Oh yeah, this thing can be done, this thing cannot be done, and so on and so forth. And after they validate their ideas, their startup ideas, what they need to start to do is like to come up with product, so the product development part. this is where mainly they need a lot. I mean, not a lot. I mean, they need investment. When it comes to this one, they need investment. So when they want to have investment, you go to any venture capital or angel investors or any seed funders. The first thing they will ask these startups like, okay, tell me how many users have sort of agree or show you interest in your product, in your idea. So most of the time when they get to this stage, they are in catch-22 situation. Chicken and egg situation. You know, they need fund to start acquire users, and at the same time, they go to the users, they want to show some, running program and whatnot. Then, after they manage to pass through this stage, what they need next is about efficiency. They have the product, it's already running. Now what they need to do, they need to make sure that the product is like really scalable, it's really efficient, and with no risk issue whatsoever. After that, they move to the growth stage. Growth stage, they're looking into expansion. Even you look into Grab. We are very familiar with Grab. Grab is actually Malaysia-made. However, due to some funding, it has moved to Singapore. We can talk about that later. So what happened, Grab, they start off in Klang Valley. When they are already firm out with they think the processes, the technology is efficient enough, then only they move to nationwide and global action. And the last stage is about when they mature, they need to look into how can they sustain their profit and start thinking about exit strategy. So right after this, we'll look into the ecosystem, what are the things that need to be in place for fintech. But before we look into that, we need to understand. We need to understand who are we providing ecosystem for. So, actually, again, when I go to Professor Google gives you a lot of ways to draw fintech ecosystem. So the one that I take, I just want to show this a quick while. This one, the one I got from Strategy N, is like last night I was at Boost Consulting. They're talking about developing fintech ecosystem in GCC. The three main components in the ecosystem are government, entrepreneurs, and financial institution. But that one is like on the broad level. However, when you look into the fintech innovation ecosystem, how are you going to spur, how are you going to have a lot of innovation within the industry? You need to start looking to beyond that. You need to start even looking to the media. You need to start to academia. You need to start, the role of academia is as much important as, other industry players due to the validation aspect. Because usually when they go and they say, yeah, this is, I've been validated or conquered by certain research from the academia, they give them a lot more credibility. So that's where they're going to. So, and on the fintech innovation, it's really like wide spectrum. However, the one that I want to talk today, the one that I'll talk about the fintech ecosystem today, I just want to divide them into 5. The first one is about talent. Talent is the only supply or raw material, apart from money, of course, in fintech. You imagine the way, if you want to come up with any startup idea or business in technology, you don't need to practically buy a machine, you don't need to buy any raw material, the like of palm oil and whatnot. What you need are good people. And as everything else, good people is very difficult to find. And you'll see after this, it's like I'll deep dive in talent afterward. So the first one is talent. Talent has come from academia, entrepreneurs, technology firms, and traditional financial institutions. The second one is about demand. You need to have demand. You cannot do something that short sendiri. Only you think that it's going to work, but no one going to buy it. So this is the demand aspect. Usually, when you talk to the startup, they fail to connect the investment, their knowledge on technology on how to capture the demand. So that the second one is demand. And the third, I'll go to capital. As much as talent is important, but if there's no money, nothing will move. So when it comes to capital is like we have the whole spectrum from the angel, from the VC or PE investors to institutional investors and traditional financial institution. And the one on the bottom left is about infrastructure. It's just like hardcore infrastructure. We talk about internet and mobile services that we go later on. And last but not least, is equally important, it's about policy, the regulator. So these are the 5 things I would like to highlight to everyone. Now, go back to the human capital. I mean, before we start, I had a quick chat with Dr. Rizal, and we somehow agree that when it comes to startup, the major challenges for them is to form a very strong team. For a very simple reason, as much as most of us here now are from Islamic finance industry, so we always mingle and mix around among us. So when we want to come up with new startup idea, it is not enough to have people from Islamic finance to do Sharia Fintech. We need to have a team consists of technology, programmer. We need to have a team that consists of marketing people. So this is exactly the problem. Even if you look into CB Insight, the top 20 reasons startup fail, the number 3 is not the right team. Imagine if naturally speaking, if you look into who will start startup, either in fintech or whatever thing, usually those people come from tech industry. Tech student, information technology student and whatnot. So when they start coming up with ideas with product, they can come up with the best of product, but when it comes to going to market, they fail to know what to do because they are very much into tech. And even I had a chat with, Alhamdulillah, I have a few avenue to speak to them, and I asked them, so it's really great that the technology that you develop. May I know how do you sell it? Yeah, I sell it, I just go to forum, I speak in seminar. I say, oh, that's great. Then what sort of forum and seminar? Yeah, we go to tech forum. I said, sorry, sir, you are tech startup, and if you're doing logistic company, logistic technology, and you're speaking in front of another tech people, they are not your client. That's not a go-to strategy market. But for them, that's the avenue they are comfortable with. That's the platform they are comfortable with. So this is why the importance of having the right team. So let me move, if not. Okay. Now we look into the consumers. We look into the demand part. Actually, PwC has global fintech survey yearly. So this one is the one that they just developed for 2017. They say that about 84% of the fintech activities that consumer believe already have business in is mainly on the payment. And then they go to the fund transfer and personal finance. This is all about the, it's about the P2P lending and whatnot. And this has been conquered as well by DBS Bank report in 2016. They say the same thing, payment, lending, and personal wealth. And you look into Malaysia. Malaysia, we have done a lot of progress, but it's not too late yet for us to venture into fintech business because there's still a lot of rooms. And with regard to the technology term, we are still, Malaysia, we are still, I'll say, a bit behind than Singapore. So we still have a lot of room to grow when it comes to fintech. All right, the next element is about capital. It's about, no money, no money, no talk kind of thing. So when it comes to capital, you'll see earlier on when it started in 2010, 2008, a lot of investors, they are very cautious about their investment in fintech. It's a new thing because the investors understand that fintech is not about tech alone. Fintech is about fin as well, the financial part. And financial part, everyone knows, is highly regulated industry. So to marry the two, the tech part, the more dynamic, the more fluid tech industry with the financial, with more uptight, more a risk management framework in it. So investors start to be very cautious. But then you look, when they start to pick up in 2013, 2014, to start investment, now most of the investors even brought in some of the startup to meet the investors. They start to be more selective. They start to be, they're looking for the performance from their previous investment to see how that goes before they put in more money. Maybe if you have, someone from the PE or VC with us today, they can explain further on that. So that's the landscape now. So whatever that they put in now, it has to be, they will be grilled even more because they have more knowledge about what to ask, as opposed to earlier on. All right, this one just like to give a quick glimpse to everyone. When you talk about infrastructure, I just pick this one quickly from the World Bank to show that Malaysia, certain area, we are providing enough for the startup or for the fintech firms to grow. And there are things that we still need to go to do a lot. In particular, if you look into fixed broadband subscription, since 2005 to 2016, yes, we have grown a lot from 1.9% per 100 people. We have grown to 8.7 or 2015 in 10 in 100. However, compare that to even the middle income countries, we are still have a lot, not a lot, we are still a bit lagging. We can improve on that. Inshallah, I hope the government, with the broadband strategy and whatnot, there will be fiber optic, they'll be improving on this. But you look into individual using the internet, Malaysia is, even higher than world average, and just like fall short a bit from the high income countries. So this is about the infrastructure. We're looking into the infrastructure. Next is about the policies. Policies, in recent years, I think 2015 or 2016, we see Bank Negara, Security Commission have been doing a lot of advancement with regard to policies. We are getting there. Even during the budget speech by our Prime Minister mentioned that we need to start having sandbox for all the new startup to try out. So that's what we need to look at. And I would like to bring focus of everyone on MDEC. Maybe not many of us are aware. MDEC actually has come out with what they call digital hub. Earlier on, what they did, they have MSC status. Everyone's aware about MSC status. They get certain percentage of, a tax break for 10 years and whatnot. But now, they said, the growth of the digital economy will not come from the big corporation anymore. The growth of digital economy will come mainly from these startups. So these startups, they don't need the same thing as per the like of Microsoft, the like of Google. What they need a co-working space, nimble enough, cheap enough. They can come, they can pay for 1 day, they can pay for 1 week, they can pay, short period. So they can manage the cost better. So with that, what MDEC has done, they have come out with digital hub, and now I think they have 6 digital hub. Inshallah, I think by January or February next year, they will be launching the first Islamic digital hub, only focused on Islamic digital economy. So they'll be looking into how can, these people, because the idea about digital hub, the idea about co-working space, like you put in these entrepreneurs, this startup in one place so that they can exchange ideas, so they can develop their idea better. In fact, MDEC also has introduced what they call Malaysia Tax Entrepreneur Program, whereby they give visa exemption to whoever that come from abroad to Malaysia to develop any tech business. So they have, even to the extent, I think they have 2 types. One is like where you already have the business, you already have the idea. And another one, they even have for someone that come and just want to explore to that extent. Because again, they believe in the importance of talent. And inshallah, we'll see something on Islamic digital economy framework. So that one should leave to MDEC to announce that. All right. So to wrap up, I mean, I put aside the infrastructure, but if you look into Singapore, if you look into New York, if you look into London, if you look into San Francisco, the key attribute that they have, the characteristic, the common characteristic that they have that make them succeed, one is talent. They have deep talent pool. When we say talent pool, don't think only about programmers. We need to look into the talent pool for Sharia FinTech or for FinTech is far beyond programmers, far beyond data scientists. It has to be a mix of everything, like what I said earlier. And then the access to capital. On this part as well, I think the announcement of the budget last week by Prime Minister about they're going to give, certain exemptions to VC companies. And they're going to create a bigger VCs with the institutional investor to put in money in that VCs. That will be a good sign for Malaysia, hopefully. Because as of now, I can tell most of the time, whoever that create startup business in Malaysia, alhamdulillah, we are being very generous to provide capital from 300 to 1 million, either grant, soft loan, or equity. However, when it comes to 1 million or 2 million, up until 10 million, that is where there's a huge gap in Malaysia. It's quite difficult to get investors, capital, for that kind of, not validate, it's just like just after validation, they want to do product development. And the third one is about policy. It's about policy, we mentioned earlier, policy from various regulators. Inshallah, we are in the right direction. And fourth, last but not least, is about demand. Demand. If there's no demand, no business, don't talk about FinTech. So this part, we need to educate the consumers as well. So before I end, I'll just give some final thought. When we want to talk about disruptive technologies, we want to talk about FinTech, all this kind of disruptive technology. It is not about digital economy alone. We need to realize that now we are at the level whereby we see the emergence of these three types of economy. One is sharing economy, the one that I mentioned about Uber, Grab, Airbnb, and whatnot. So this thing has changed the dynamic of business. And then, of course, the digital economy, where now technology has become commodity. To find good programmer is hard, but not as hard as before. And then the next one is about expectation economy. Expectation economy, where what we say is like many people people always want better than better best even. To give some insight about this, imagine like 5 years ago, if you go to any restaurant or cafe, we go there, and if that restaurant and cafe said, yeah, we have Wi-Fi, we say, yeah, this restaurant is cool, it's really good. But look at now, if you go to any restaurant and cafe, if they don't have Wi-Fi, we say, lekeh, what? It's like still backward. So that's how the expectation economy is always like moving forward. So I'll leave everyone at we look into the hospitality, what happened, Airbnb, they are the largest accommodation providers, that owns no real estate. And then look at Alibaba, the most valuable retailer, they have no inventory. Facebook, most popular media, most of us look into Facebook like every day, if not every other day, but they create no content. Uber, world largest taxi, I don't know for how long more, with whatever thing that they have now, but they own no vehicle. Like imagine, Dr. Asna was saying that, Sharia scholar later on will be challenged by AI, robo-Sharia. But in a greater space, maybe later on, whatever role that banks does now might be replicated by something else, using crowdsourcing and whatnot. So not only to Sharia scholars, but I think to Islamic finance professionals like me and everyone else, we need to start, going into other business or other enhance ourselves with other skills as well. With that, thank you very much.